Yes, sir. The year was about 1971 or 72. I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and the church where my dad preached every year would have a meeting, a gospel meeting, revival sort of event. And every year we would go door knocking. And it seemed like we'd start about 3 months before the meeting, and we'd always have a goal of 10 or 20,000 doors we'd try to knock on. And it was every Saturday, every Sunday. And I have always been, and still am, scared to death of dogs. I just have a dread fear of them. So door knocking was not very popular in my life. So on this, every year they get together on Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, and they pair up and make assignments of who was going with who. And then I remember that Sunday that Dad said, "Son, today you're going with me." I knew what that meant. I knew that meant we'd go to every door, and I also knew we'd encounter a lot of dogs. We're in a rough part of town, and so we're out knocking doors, and we got up to this one house, and the fence was all broken down, and the house was in disrepair. The yard had not been cut, and it just kind of looked rough. And I thought nobody's living there. We got up to the front door, and when we got to the front door, the door was literally not on its hinges. It's sitting a little bit to the side, and I thought this is really good because no one lives here. There aren't any dogs here, so we can stay here as long as we want. So Dad kind of rapped on the side of where the door would have been, and nobody answered. We stood there a couple minutes later. He knocked on it again, and nobody answered. And after a while, we got ready and we left. We walked back down the sidewalk, back through where the picket fence had been, walking down the sidewalk to the next house. And I spotted these guys before Dad did, but I knew he would. A bunch of old guys working with motorcycles and a lean-to back behind the house. And I remember it so well. Dad saw them, and sure enough, walked back around the picket fence, walked through the rough, uncut grass to the back of the yard, and all these rough-looking guys, beer cans spread everywhere. And Dad walked up to the one that I'm to this day am convinced was the biggest of the group, and he said, "Hello, I'm Jerry Jenkins from the Woodline Church of Christ. We're out today inviting people to study the Bible with us. Would you like to study the Bible with us?" And I remember the guy looked at him and kind of looked cross at him. I thought, Jerry Jenkins, born January 15th, 1934, died. I think somebody's got to write the obituary because he's fixing to die. That's the beginning of the story.
Oh, nice. I can't wait to hear the rest later on. So tell us who you are, where you're from, and interesting fact.
I'm Dale Jenkins. I live in Spring Hill, Tennessee, and I work with the Jenkins Institute. Lived here in Spring Hill for about 17 years now. Worked with the Spring Meadows Church of Christ here for years and love the people there. But and an interesting fact, I don't know what would be interesting. I did appear on the Larry King Live show one time.
That is interesting, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. What happened there then? You got to tell us now. I can't just say it.
Well, so there was a guy that was involved in some nefarious activity. I don't know if most people in America will know the story of the John Benet Ramsey murder several years ago. This guy was living in Singapore and was accused of a crime, and he was going to be caned. And most of the time, the people who are caned don't live from it. Well, he confessed to that murder so that he could be extradited back to the United States. And I had known him and I had some dealings with him, and that's how I ended up on several, like CBS This Morning and several different shows like that during that time. So nothing great about the story, but it did.
Five minutes of fame there, or whatever, 10 minutes.
Yeah, that long.
So, like on the show, we talk about how to share our faith bravely. So, do you have some strategies for us? Usually about 3 that can help people today and this week and their life share their faith.
So just a couple of things. Thank you for asking. I'm glad you're doing this. First of all, I like the bravely idea. The fact is, most of us get really nervous, even if we've shared our faith with a lot of people. We still get nervous. We sit down and talk to someone. But just a couple of things I found useful. Something that is disarming in most people's lives is prayer. And I always think that if I see someone, meet them in a restaurant or a waiter or waitress or someone, I'm in a hospital waiting room or anywhere, you can ask them, especially if you can tell they look like they have some of their mind or struggling way, you can ask them if you can pray with them. And to me, that is a great, great way to break ice and open doors and disarm people, because rarely when I've done that, I've had someone say, "No, I really don't like to pray." Most people appreciate prayer. And so I think one of the most easy ways for us to open a door to have an opportunity to talk to someone about Christ is simply by praying with them. That's the first thing.
That's good. Yeah, prayer, and I think, like you said, just it does disarm them, but it's not you're not asking them for anything. They expect you to like want something from them. You want some money or something, so that's good. Prayer, powerful.
Okay, second thing, what I have found is that if anyone asks you a question, I'm a preacher, and so people like to ask us controversial questions about the Bible, and sometimes it's because of a misnomer about the Bible or about the faith, or misunderstanding about Scripture, or sometimes it's a misunderstanding about the church. And when that happens, what I like to do is I like to postpone the question, and I'm trying to be kind about it. I'd love to answer that question, but would you be willing to sit down with me and talk further about the Bible? And if that's the issue, then, if whatever that issue is, we'll talk about it later, but we have a bigger issue at hand. I want to talk about the Scriptures. And so that is a second thing that I've found that's really, really, really been helpful.
Good. So number 2 is just, if they're tough questions, keep going. And number 3, what do you got?
Well, the third thing I think is you've got to be present in people's lives. And I just think that there's not much more of a way to do that than to provide places and opportunities where you can be around people and see people. I'm a part of several different organizations, and I'm not in those organizations because I'm just crazy about the organization, but it provides me people to be around. And then when something's going on in their life, they see how I live my life. It provides open doors for me to have an opportunity to talk to them about the gospel. And so, I coached for years. We coached Little League ball. I coached baseball. Of all the sports that I've coached, baseball is my least favorite. But it's such a slow-moving sport, and parents love it so much that they come to all the games, and it provides a lot of chance for you to interact with them and to be around people. And so I was a part of a history society at one time, not because I do like history, but not because I want to be a part and had time to do it, but simply because it provided an opportunity. For years, I would go to the city council meetings in the town that I lived in, and I would go to them because it got me in front of those people and had an opportunity to get to know them. So find places where people are, where you can have opportunities to help them, or to be with them, or to interact with them, or to let them see how you live your life, so that when something comes up, it provides that open door.
That's good. Yeah. Now, do you, let's say someone's wants to try this, they're like, hey, I could probably join a couple things. I could probably find something to be a part of. What's some things that you're doing? So you're there, you go to the historical place, or a coach. What are you looking for? What are you thinking about? Because you're there to share the good news, right? To be a light. So what's the things?
Inevitably, things are going to happen in people's lives. They're gonna have a baby. They're gonna buy a house. They're gonna get married. They're gonna go through divorce. They're gonna have the death of a parent. And if you're coaching their child in Little League baseball, I have this little boy named Josh. I think about Josh a lot. And Josh's granddad died during the season. And I remember really, really well that when his dad was very upset about it. His dad was not a religious man, but the death of your father is a major event. Well, I don't think it was just incidental that I happened to be coaching Josh's baseball team at the time that his granddad died. I had put myself in that place, and now I've been praying for the Lord to put people in my path that I have a chance to teach, and it gave me a chance to sit down and talk with the man. So that sort of thing. And Josh's dad became a Christian and has lived a life of faith for many, many years since. It's been over 30 years. It's been over 25 years ago anyway.
You've been listening to Be Brave. The world right now is a crazy place, and sharing the love of God is the most important thing we can do right now. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up gobebrave.org. Remember, the love of God is the most powerful force in the universe. Learn how to love like Jesus. See you next time.